Hello everyone, this is Pal Ponder on Weather coming at you with another video. In this update, we're going to be talking about potential tropical storm Gamma that's going to be forming in the Caribbean and possibly going into the Gulf of Mexico. So before I do get started, if you do like weather-related content, please subscribe to my channel as I will upload about 5 videos a week to keep you updated. All right, so let's kind of delve into the details. Let's start off with the overall depiction from NOAA, where climatologically in October, this is where we start to look for tropical storm development out of the Caribbean, and the natural flow of these storms predominantly will be lifted northward into parts of Florida, going up the southern northeast coast. So if we take a look at the overall outlook, we've been talking about potential active Caribbean. The waters have been kind of really suppressed. We were very active. We went through 23 named storms, and then we had a Kelvin wave that came across the Pacific into the Atlantic, which is actually what we're kind of experiencing now. A lot of sinking air over the Atlantic. But that is going to start to change as we get into October. And I actually put out a video about 5 days ago. The area to watch is an active Caribbean for October. And here we are 5 days later, and the National Hurricane Service went ahead and highlighted a potential area to watch in the Western Caribbean for tropical storm development. And I'll go over the reasons why that is. Here's the latest satellite picture and kind of how this is all kind of taken place. This is the area of disturbed weather that they're actually highlighting, a 20% chance right now of it going into the Caribbean. This is just an active wave over the main development region that the natural flow will push it westward, and then kind of once it gets into the Caribbean, we have this front. We talked about these pretty strong cold fronts. So we got one that moved through like right now. We have a second reinforcing shot on Thursday. That's actually pushing the warmer waters further south into the Caribbean. And once this area disturbed weather kind of mixes with the warmer waters of the Caribbean and, climatologically favored, and then going into a more favorable phase, once that sinking air kind of subsides, then that's when the first week in October, we could start seeing this area start getting a lot more active in this area of watching tropical storm development come out of this region and eventually pushing northward into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, the reason why, here is the latest from windy.com, and this shows you the natural progression of the winds, the upper level winds, because that's basically what carries these storms. These come off the African coast, and once it starts getting into the Caribbean, it still pushes westward. We have these fronts this time of year. So once it gets into the Caribbean, that's when we start kind of lifting, depending on when the timing of these fronts. But the overall trajectory, we have a saying in Texas, first fall front of the year puts Texas in the clear. Once a front reaches the coast, like these fronts are going to be reaching the coast, that predominantly puts Texas in the clear of a potential landfalling, tropical storm. Typically, about 99% time, that usually comes to fruition, because a lot of times just the upper level winds will carry it away from Texas and possibly push it into. Then you start looking at more of like, Louisiana, the southeastern regions, and especially into Florida. That's typically the hot spot in October, and eventually up the East Coast. So this is, like I showed you earlier on in the video, where that potential favored area, that is the reason why, is just because these cold fronts and the wind pattern, the upper level wind pattern for this time of year, naturally pushes these away from Texas and then more or less into the southeastern region, Florida, into the northeast coast. If we kind of expand the view, here's the latest EPS probability guidance. And typically with these storms this season, the Euro has been somewhat late to the game a little bit. They're kind of one of the later ones to come on board with tropical storm development. But once it does go into development, it's fairly accurate. And here's the latest probability index from the EPS guidance, which is all 51 members of the European model. And if we expand the view into the first week of October, it's got that area of hotspot to look out for tropical storm development. And like I said, with these natural wind progression, this would be Gamma going into the Gulf of Mexico. And of course, out behind it, coming off, we have a pretty strong wave at that time frame. And that could be potentially, what is that? You have delta, and then you have epsilon. So yeah, it gets kind of confusing because we've only been in the Greek storms like twice. It's only been since 2005. It's the last time I actually was even talking about Greek named storms. This has just been a crazy year, and we still got 2 months to go. So here's the overall ensemble member means showing that area of disturbed weather. By the time the 3rd rolls around, October 3rd, of developing low pressures, we start to look at, all the members of the European. Of course, you have individual model runs that come out twice a day, or the GFS that comes out 4 times a day. I mean, there's 112 different model runs that come out daily, and they're all going to show different pictures. But when it's this far out, I always like to look at what are the ensemble members looking at, and how many of them are actually combined in an area, and then what's the guidance from there. And as we go closer in within 5 days, then I start looking at potentially individual model runs, and I'll show you a couple of them, but they are going to waver back and forth depending on each model run. But overall, there is congruency of a tropical storm development, and it favors that area of all that what we talked about of something coming out of that area for the first week of October going into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, if we take a look at the latest tracks of the EPS cyclone guidance, it shows potentially Gamma coming off Caribbean, potentially going into Florida. This is the latest European model. And then, of course, we have another tropical wave that's coming off the African coast after that. Here's the latest GFS, and I always like to look at this too, is the overall precipitational water content in the atmosphere. You can really kind of see of how this would play out. We have this, that cold front, that secondary cold front that we've been talking about, that's going to go all the way down into Florida. By that time, it's going to push all that warmer air down to the Caribbean. Here's Gamma potentially forming by the 3rd, and as this will swing upwards, we've got a lot of cooler waters to deal with now over the Gulf of Mexico. So that's why right now I'm looking at potentially just a tropical storm, maybe nothing more than that at a Gamma, but we'll just see how this plays out. Here's the latest GFS, and you can actually see it's got a formidable tropical storm in the Gulf of Mexico by the time October 5th rolls around, of a 997 millibar low pressure. This is fairly average of all the different model runs that's been going over the last week from this area. Of course, the GFS goes out 16 days, and some of these have been kind of crazy back and forth and showing a lot stronger than what this is. But predominantly, I think, based on the ensemble member guidance of what's coming out of this region, then what's the upper level airflow and what potentially could happen, a tropical storm is likely into the Gulf of Mexico by the first week of October. So if we actually expand the view and take it a step further back, we've got potentially another storm. So this is only kind of getting going again. And then this area, this is by the 10th, potentially another area showing in that exact same region. Then, of course, we've got that tropical wave that the ensemble member showed you that could possibly develop off the African coast. So we, even after Gamma, could be looking at Delta, and then, of course, the Epsilon, depends on which ones get possibly named first. But here's an overall depiction of the Greek alphabet. And like I said, we've only been here one other time. I know Gamma back in 2005, it was November 13th when Gamma formed. So if Gamma forms, this would be of course, 1 month ahead of the all-time record. And then, of course, we have Delta and Epsilon. And then Zeta didn't actually form until the end of December, which was actually a named storm in the month of January. And it was only the second time in history, since they've been tracking these things since 1851. Last time it happened in 1954, that we had 2 named storms in 2 calendar years for the National Hurricane Center record. So, and we only made it to Zeta then in 2005, and we're already at, Beta, of course, happened. We'll, we see Gamma could potentially happen, then Delta and Epsilon. So Zeta is definitely within target. And like I said, we go through all the way through November 30th, and 2005, it lasted into January. So I do think we got a long ways to go, even with this developing La Nina that's coming on and only getting stronger. So the stage is set for still an active season for the next month or two as we come to an end of tropical storm season. So I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you found value, please like and leave your comments below, and definitely subscribe to my channel, and catch me in the next video where I protect you before and after the storm.